y'all, this is Kayla with Live Oak Nest, and today I'm going to share with you a really fun project that I did for my office. So I decided to take an old door and turn it into a desk, and so I'm going to kind of walk you through how I did that. So you can see this is the door that I picked up, and it has a lot of chippy paint on it. A lot of it is about to fall off, and I need to seal this before I want to put it in the house. And so I want to just take a paint scraper and just kind of scrape off the paint that's already falling off and get it good and cleaned up so that I can seal it. So I ended up finding 3 doors on Facebook Marketplace, and I got all 3 of them for 40 bucks. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the other 2 yet, but this one I'm going to turn into a desk. And in my desk right now I have just an old dining table, and it's just taking up so much room, and I really wanted to be able to use something a little bit narrower. So I am going to go ahead and clean up both sides of the door because I want to be able to seal both sides. So this side here on the back is the side that you saw at the very first of the video, and it is very chippy, which I like that, but when I turned the door over I kind of liked the colors of the paints a little bit better on this side here. And so this is going to be the top part. It's got like several different layers. It's got a gray and a cream and a blue color, and I love all of those colors. So this is going to be the top part of my desk. So I used a paint scraper just to kind of go in and knock off some of the bigger pieces, but now I'm going to go in with a butter knife and just kind of run it down the raised portions all around the edges and kind of deep into those crevices, just to kind of knock off a little bit more paint. I wanted it to look a little bit more chippy, and I wanted to have some of the creamy color show through that's on that second layer of paint. So I'm just gently taking off some of the very top layer, and then I'm going to give this a really good sanding. So before I start sanding, I need to get the hinges and the doorknob off, and these hinges are so rusted there is no way that I could get them unscrewed with just a normal drill. And so I called in my husband, and he's going to help me out. He picked up this little drill bit set, and it's called Speed Out, but it basically, you drill a hole into the screw with one side of the drill bit, and then you turn it around and drill in, and it grips into the screw and helps you pull it back out. So it was so windy this day, I ended up having to record the voiceover. So he's just showing you how it actually works, that when you screw it in, when you put the drill bit in, it actually grabs hold of the screw and the hole that you just drilled and helps you pull it out. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works. So we put the drill bit into the drill. We're using the side that you drill the hole into the screw. So you're going to use that side, drill your hole into the screw, and then once you get your hole, a good depth inside the screw, you can flip the drill bit over and then use that end to screw into the screw, and it will kind of grab and help you pull the screw out when you reverse the drill. Okay, so we flip the drill bit around, and we're going to unscrew this screw. So you can see the hole that we drilled, and he's turned the drill bit around, and then we're just going to put it in there, and when you reverse the drill, it unscrews the screw right out of the hinge. So we weren't able to get all of the screws out before the drill died, so we were able to get one of them out. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and move on to sanding down the top of the door. So I'm using 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just using my palm sander, and I just want to smooth everything down. I don't want to take off a lot of paint. I just want to smooth down all the rough edges where the paint has really chipped quite a bit. So I'm just going to run my sander over the top of the table. Okay, so I have everything sanded down really well and it looks so much better. I love how this is looking. So as soon as our drill gets charged back up, we're going to work on the other set of hinges and get those removed. Okay, so this is another day and we've moved the table into the kitchen, and I wanted to mention that we were not able to get the other set of hinges out using the same method, the speed out drill bit set. They were just so rusted into the holes that we could not get them to pull out. So we ended up just screwing out as much of the screws as we could just by drilling a hole into the screw. And then the parts of metal that were just kind of lodged in there really well, we took the Dremel and just sanded those down so it's really nice and smooth. So if you didn't want something like that showing on yours, I mean, you could cut off a piece of ruler and stick it in there. You could put something across the whole front piece, but that doesn't bother me since they're nice and smooth, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. Okay, so we're looking at the bottom part of the desk, and there's a couple of pieces like the top part of the veneer that's kind of peeling up, and so I just want to make sure that those are nice and secure and glued back down to the wood, because I don't want you know, something catching on them or causing splinters and things like that. So I'm just going to use some wood glue, and I'm going to put a very generous amount up underneath where it's coming undone, and then I'm going to clamp it and let it dry really well and see if I can't get those pieces secured back down. So here you can see I've put a ton of wood glue up under there, and now I'm just going to take a wet cloth and kind of run it back down to remove the excess wood glue, and then I'm going to clamp it and let it dry really well, and then once it's good and dry I can go back in and put a top coat on and seal it all really well. Okay, so we've moved this upstairs and I've gone ahead and put 2 coats of General Finishes Flat Out Flat Top Coat onto this piece, and this is my favorite top coat. It's a true matte finish and it self-levels really well so you don't get a bunch of brush strokes. So I'll link it in the comments so that you can purchase it, but it is my go-to sealer. So also, I started putting on these legs, as you can see, and you can purchase these legs as just like a little kit at Lowe's. So you get the legs and they screw into these little brackets that you screw onto the table, and it's very easy and very handy. But after I got all of my little legs screwed on and everything done and turned my table right side up, it was just as wobbly as could be. So I knew that I was going to need to add an apron, do some research, figure out how to kind of sturdy it up. So I ended up building an apron and changing the legs, but I wanted to still show you this in case you were considering doing this yourselves. It's not going to work out if you purchase these legs and these bracket kits. It's just going to be way too wobbly. So stay tuned and you'll see what I ended up doing. Okay, so after I went to YouTube and tried to figure out what I needed to do to sturdy up my table, I came across the Kreg Jig system and realizing that I needed to add an apron to the door, and the best way to do that was through using pocket holes. So this Kreg Jig system I purchased at Lowe's. It was $38. I will link the kit that I use. They have several different versions of a Kreg Jig pocket hole systems, but this is the one I used. It was so handy and so convenient, and it's really what we needed to be able to finish this project. So we did a couple of test holes first, and I just want to kind of show you how it works. So you drill in your pocket holes, and then when you line it up next to your legs, you screw into the pocket holes, and the screw catches about middle of the way through the hole and grabs into the leg. And so we're going to drill pocket holes into the legs, and then we're going to also drill them into the top so that we can secure the door on top of our frame. So the Kreg Jig kit comes with everything you need. It actually comes with some of the screws that you need. It comes with the drill bit that drills the hole, and then it also comes with the drill bit that screws the screws in. So it comes with everything you need to get started. All you need in addition to that would be a couple of clamps to clamp everything to your workbench or to your kitchen island like we have here. So the Kreg Jig comes with instructions on how to do everything and how to set up your system so that you get your pocket holes in the right position. But you basically slide this little notch on the Kreg Jig that lines up with the depth of your wood so that you drill your hole deep enough. So here we are, we're doing our first hole into our wood, and from here we're just going to keep working our way around and get all of our holes drilled and then start screwing everything together. Okay, so we finished drilling all of our pocket holes, and now we're going to work on screwing everything together. So you can see we've got the end leg screwed in here, and we're about to screw one of the side aprons on. So I wanted to show you, I set a little book here all the way down the length of the table just to kind of set back the apron so it gives it a little bit of dimension. And once you have all your pocket holes drilled, you just need to clamp everything down so everything is good and tight. And then go ahead and use your screws and just screw everything together. So I wanted to point out also that we have pocket holes going down the length of the apron because we're going to need to screw the frame of the table to the door. And so with all of these pocket holes, once we get it turned upside down and setting on top of the door, we'll screw into the pocket holes, and that screw will go into the bottom of the door and just hold it all together. Okay, so here is the frame completely finished. I'm so excited about this, and I'm so proud of us for doing this little project. So this is our first time working with wood and tools like this, so it's very exciting to be able to do it and get it done. Okay, so now we want to screw the door onto our frame, and so I've just turned everything upside down, and I'm going to use my Kreg Jig screws and screw them into the pocket holes. I have all of my pocket holes screwed in. I have my table turned right side up, and now before I give it a coat of paint, I'm going to add a little caulk in all of the seams. So I think this just gives it a nicer look, a more finished look before you paint. So I'm just going to kind of show you how I'm doing this, and a little trick or tip that I use when I'm applying caulk with this type of tube. So I actually push my tube into the bead of caulk instead of away from it, and I think it just helps with waste, and I think it helps give a little bit more smooth finish. It just makes it go on a little bit smoother, and you don't have as much of a mess when you're trying to smooth it all out. So as you can see, I just kind of push the tube with the direction that I'm applying the caulk, and then I take my finger, my pinky, and just run it down the seam to kind of smooth everything out. So once the caulk is good and dry, I usually give it about 30 minutes. You can go ahead and go in with your paint, and I'm using Fusion Mineral Paint in the color Raw Silk, and it's just a creamy, beautiful white color. And I thought it complemented the top of the desk really nicely, so I'm going to just cover the legs and the apron here in that Fusion Mineral Paint color, and I did 2 coats of paint. And then Fusion Mineral Coat has a top coat built in, so I didn't have to go in with the top coat and seal over all of this. So before I show you what the new desk looks like in the office, I wanted to kind of show you the space before we moved it out, just so that you can see what I was working with and what I meant. So this was the old dining table that I had in the office, and I like the desk, I love the color. It's just so deep, like it takes up so much room in this little space. And so by using the door desk that we're using, it's much narrower, and it's going to save probably at least a foot depth-wise, and then it will go all the way down where that white little table is, so that I can get rid of that little table, and it'll just create a lot more open room in here. So here is a little tour of the office. I have it all cleaned up. We have our new desk in here, and I cannot believe the difference that changing out the desk made. Like, it just created so much more room, and it's just so much more cleaned and organized. It took me several weeks to get everything cleaned up and organized. Before I had the twins, I had a little boutique, and so there was just a lot of things once I closed that shop that just kind of sat in here, and so it took a lot of time to kind of clean through everything and get everything organized. But I absolutely love how this desk turned out, and honestly it was pretty inexpensive compared to if I were to go buy a new desk. And I love the length of the desk, and I also love the depth, so it's not near as deep, it doesn't take up so much room, and I can fit my Cricut and my sewing machine on one end and have my computer on the other end. So all in all, I'm super happy with how this turned out, and it just is such a nice fresh feel to this space. I think too that I'll try and do another video just more in depth on how I organize things in my office space, because as I was trying to come up with solutions on storing things in a small space, I ran across a couple of really good tips, especially for like fabric scraps and fabric and paper if you do a lot of like paper crafting. So I think I'll do another video and share some of those tips and tricks, but I still wanted to go ahead and show you just kind of a full view of the office and how everything looks now. And a couple of more things that I wanted to mention. On the apron for the table, or for the door desk, we actually ended up just using 2x4s and had those cut down at Home Depot. And I think it was a few cents per cut, but they cut the wood for me, so I don't have a table saw or anything like that. And so they were able to do that for me. And then I also decided to use plexiglass as the top instead of actual glass, because to have a piece of glass cut for this door desk would be very, very expensive. The plexiglass for the length, I ended up having to do 2 sections. So there is a seam about 3/4 of the way through, but I don't mind that because it kind of helps me separate spaces on the desk anyway. But the plexiglass, I think it was around $70 to cover the entire desk. And I've been really happy with how it's held up. It's a great, great option if you're doing this yourself. And I will link some of the more decorative items or the home decor pieces that you see in the office in the description down below. But I really hope you've enjoyed this, and if you're looking to make an old door, take an old door and turn it into a desk, I hope you found this helpful. It's definitely less expensive than buying a new desk, and it certainly has more character. So if you like the video, consider giving it a thumbs up, letting me know what you think in the comments. And if you're new to my channel, I would love if you would subscribe. I put a new video out every week on either a DIY project or something home decor related, and I would love to have you join me. So I'll see you again next week. Y'all take care.